Yo, welcome back to the channel, and today we are actually starting off a new series. So we're going to be doing a maintenance series on the R33 GTR. So we're going to drop the fluid, we're actually going to replace the hoses and then fill it up again. When it gets pressurized, you can sort of see a bit of coolant getting leaked out of it. So fix that and address that today. And if you like GTR content, please give us a like and a subscribe. Trying to grow the channel to 10K, hopefully in a few months. And we're going to be really pushing some YouTube content in our new space, which also I'll give you guys a bit of an update. We're going to be painting that wall, we're going to be clearing out some stuff, and we're going to be building out a whole shop series as well as a side note. So that's going to be sick. That's going to be another video coming out hopefully very soon. But yeah, I appreciate you guys clicking on the video. So let's get into it. Ooh, she's looking nice. Another thing is we just got this hoist installed as well. I've got a video of that. If you want to go check that out, go have a look, come back here. But man, honestly, working on cars with the hoist, what a fucking dream to do. Because before, getting on jack stands, we're getting too old for that shit, I think, to be honest with you. When I'm on floors like that, working on cars, honestly, just every part of me just hurts and it's just not fun. But we pulled the trigger on this hoist. We've got a sick space to work on the car now. And I'm very happy about that fact. One thing I don't like about the hoist is the fact that this is getting pushed up. Honestly, not ideal. I've tried to like pad it a little bit, but what I need to do is get bigger risers here. These ones are way too hectic. So I need like a midpoint between these and those. We gotta make do with what we got. You got a hoist, you can't really complain too much, can you? Let's send the coolant plug out and I will drain the system. Well, I forgot to take the top of the radiator cap off, but I'll do that after I pull the bottom plug. Let's get into that and then drain the system. Hopefully from this height, it doesn't go fucking everywhere, but honestly, a little bit doubtful that that's gonna be the case. We'll find out. I haven't brought all of my tools over yet, so I'm literally working out of a plastic bag full of wrenches, which is pretty funny. The thing is, you probably want to have the radiator cool to the touch. I drove my car in this morning, so it's obviously just sort of, you know, heated up to working temp and beyond because I don't drive it lightly. But basically you want to let it just cool down. I know you can run the engine for a bit beforehand to open up the thermostat running to the engine block. But honestly, just because I'm replacing the hoses and I've done the coolant recently, I'm gonna leave that coolant inside the thermostat and inside the block. And we're gonna basically just drain what's on the outside. And then that's gonna allow us to just fill it back up after we replace these hoses over here, because this is the OEM hose. And it's pretty old, so we're gonna have to replace that. But let's crack this loose. I think it's a 14. Yep, let's get that loose and drain. I'm gonna get fucking drenched doing this, but let's see. I'm gonna start with the bucket in the air. All right, that's cool to the touch, so we don't have to worry about getting burnt here. Should probably be wearing gloves for this too, to be honest with you. But it is what it is. All right. Shouldn't come out too quickly because the cap's actually still on. So we'll leak out slowly, but doesn't look that nice, to be honest. Like, it's not like a clean green. I've got that dripping. Now that that's off, I'm gonna put this in a safe spot and we will open up the cap from the top. Let's see how this goes. Well, funny enough, the top's actually still really hot. Why am I struggling with this? What the fuck? I gotta bring the car down slowly. I just got no leverage on this. I'm so weak. Holy. Should really prop this up, shouldn't I? All right, Jesus. It must have still been pressurized from the heat, to be honest with you, because that is squirting. She's a squirter. Jesus. I didn't realize that was still probably hot in here, because look at this. She's gushing. Crazy. All right, so that was obviously hotter up the top than it was at the bottom, because the coolant at the base was like cool to the touch. Geez, I hope that's big enough to hold all that. We'll find out. Yeah, I'm gonna let that drain, and when it's done, we will take off the hoses. So top hose, I'll play by ear. This one's not actually leaking. I should probably replace it, to be honest, because these fucking clamps are really bad for radiator hoses. They just kind of like cut into them and don't really, you know, support it as well as they should. So I've got new clamps. Let's go have a look at those. If it wants to focus in, focus in, focus in. These are the new clamps that I got. Not in any way sort of better. It has a more even clamping surface across the front. There's even better ones where they're just like those pinch ones. I feel like those ones are usually just better because there's a set sort of tension on those that you won't wring the fuck out of them. But I've always been sketched out about those blowing off with the pressure, but you know, apparently that doesn't happen. But yeah, we got these instead. We're gonna replace those. I should really do this. I should really replace those. Stop being a lazy cunt, you fuck. Yeah, I'll replace it. This is gonna be the easier hose to replace. If I lift up the car, let's take it up again. So when you're using a hoist, always remember, go past the safety latches that tap, then go back down onto them. That was so weird that it stopped leaking while it was going upwards. Why was that? Very strange. Never had that happen before. All right, what was it? I was talking about the other hose. So the other hose, which is, where is it? Here. That leads up into the block. Now, honestly, trying to reach up to that is gonna be a fucking nightmare. I'm beginning to really regret my decision to want to do this because I may end up getting stranded out here. Looks like it's leaking from the sensor maybe. I don't really know. I hope it's not cracked. Anyway, we're draining it for now. We'll see how far we can get. All right, so the coolant has finished draining. I'm gonna lower it down and try and get the top hose off first. Up here, we will do that and replace that. Let's get it done. I believe the top hose clamp should be at 10 mil. Beginning to think it might even be leaking from the top one, to be honest. Maybe, we'll see. Another bolt here. One thing with these hoses, they're gonna be heated and cooled a lot. So you'll find that they're pretty much seized or stuck on for the most part, but this one's coming off pretty well, thankfully. Taking off the thermostat end side. All right. So these are the clamps that I was telling you about. So these here, let me just put this pipe down. So these hose clamps are like, they just kind of cut into the silicone with those rings. I'm not a big fan of these, but people use them, but not a big fan. Just quickly, I will show you that it's all crummy and shit. So I'll probably clean that up with some brake cleaner and see if that flange gets clean, because you kind of want like an even surface for it to melt. It does also look like in there that some of the coolant was actually leaking from the top as well. But this is the new hose that's going in with the clamps, and we will clean that up and put that on. One thing I do want to mention is that you need to take the top hose off to actually access one of the screws is holding the bottom hose in. First thing is top hose off, second bottom hose off, new bottom hose on, opposite order, top hose back on. So the next part that needs to come off is the bottom hose. Probably not gonna be able to film this much because it's so deep in there, honestly. Like, it's gonna be very difficult for me to film. But I'll get that off, replace it, and then show you once I'm done. Top of the bottom hose is off, as you can see there, but I'll get the bottom section off and then we'll replace that. One thing I'm gonna have to do is probably invest in some shop lights, to be honest, because it's fucking dark. I can't really see shit. God, it feels good to be able to sit down and do this. I had like vice grips, everything, and it's still seized on there, so I just ended up cutting it out. That was crazy. You saw how hard I was pulling on that and it just would not come off. So, fuck that, cut it. So now what I'm doing, I don't know if you can see, again it's dark, so I apologize, but feeding it up to where it needs to sit. I'll probably just leave it there for a sec, drop it down, and then come at it from the top. I have to reach into that abyss and somehow wiggle this pipe on. Like, this is gonna be tough. There's no room to do this, to be honest. So we'll see. We've actually managed to somewhat do it, which is good. It needs to go much further back though. I wish I could click my fingers and every part is out of the way, but it's the beauty of working on cars, huh? It's not easy. Okay, so after wrestling this motherfucker for like 20 minutes, I reckon, I got the hose on, and that fitting, holy, even with the top hose out, is such a bitch to get to. Like, my socket that I had was the right size, but like, you know when you twist like nuts within a socket and there's a bit of space between the socket and the nut and it just gets wedged in there? And like, I fucking wrestled that, trying to get that off the end, that came off. I had to use heat. Had to fucking degrease it, had to use, oh my God. At the end of the day, like, is it worth it working in your car? Tell me, because I don't fucking think so, to be honest. But here we are. We've now got the top part of the bottom hose on, and now we're gonna get the bottom part on and fasten that up. Once that's done, we will get the top hose from the radiator on as well onto the thermostat housing. And then we can fill up the coolant for look, it's dark outside. That's how fucking long it took me. No, I'm joking. I started really late in the afternoon. But rant over, let's get this done. All right, so fastener on first. Probably gonna have it facing inside down, so it's away from the sensor, because there's a coolant temperature sensor that goes in the bottom there. So have it down like that, and then let's get that bottom hose on. That went on quite easy, thankfully. And then let's tighten that down. All right, so that's the bottom one done. Time to get the top hose on. Let's let the car down a bit so I can access that. What I like to do is put a little bit of coolant on the inside, just so it slips on a little bit easier. And then, yeah, so you get both sides on. You wanna do one side first, then put the clamps over the top. So let's get this side on first. It can be quite difficult if the end has been corroded. I usually like putting the bottom half on first, or one side on first, like the top sort of section, then just like rotate it around, and then it slips on quite nicely. And on the right side of this, you'll feel that there's like a little metal tab that essentially on the right side of the thermostat housing, that sort of indicates is how far the pipe should go on. So it will stop and not really go further than that point. So you know you're done once you've got it there, which is a bit of a challenge, to be honest. Rotate it, shimmy it on, and once you get it in there, you're good to put your clamps on. I'll show you a trick as well. And you want to kind of angle it and rotate it a bit as well while you're doing this. So that's probably as far as it can go now. I'm happy with that. All right, now for the clamps. So something to keep in mind for this is you'll wanna, let me grab you with my other hand. You'll wanna kind of orientate it, plan it. So like, this is the majority of the space here, right? So to access this bolt, you'd want this facing up and out this way. So I've kind of done it like that. I'm just gonna loosen that up so I can actually slip it over the top part. So now that's on. I'm just gonna snug it up. I'm not gonna tighten the shit out of it yet, just to make sure I've got it in the right spot. That feels pretty good. Make sure it's evenly over the pipe. Leave that there for now. Second clamp can go on top. And as I said before, let's angle that up and out to the side that has the most access here. Over here would be a bit of a punish because it would hit this part. You kind of want to have it on the side that's got the most room. So let's fit that on and tighten up the clamp, and that's the top one done. Another thing that I would suggest is rotating the actual hose a slight bit, like sort of up this direction, so that this kink, if it's kinked downwards, you want to kind of like alleviate that kink upwards. So this corner of the hose then has more room to push out. To some extent that helps. Making sure it's all the way on as well. All right, now that that's in place, let's get these snugged up. Now you don't want to over tighten these. You kind of want them just to be applying even pressure across the board, because otherwise you'll start cutting into the silicone itself. Usually I just go until it feels tight and taut. Then you want to snug up the bottom one. Again, making sure that the sides are in a good spot. The side fasteners, snug that up. That feels pretty good so far. So now we've got that hose, top hose tightened up and done. Let's fill up the radiator, bleed the coolant. What you can do as well before we start, I'll show you can push on this when the coolant is sitting inside a funnel, and essentially that will bleed any air in the lines. So we're gonna do that a little bit first, just to fill it up. Then we're gonna run the engine with that coolant running through it as well. And then hopefully any air bubbles will rise to the surface, and we can bleed it that way. So let's start doing that. Before we wrap this up, I actually wanted to just install these. Some new Nissan like genuine parts. They're essentially radiator mount brackets for the top. Some new bushings, so I'm gonna quickly install those. So if you look there, you can see the nice new fittings, the nice new hardware and mounts, and boom, Job done, aside from probably more bleeding that I'm gonna need to do another time. All right, that's where I'm gonna end it. Honestly, like I pretty much fucked it up. So essentially the radiator, I think, was tilted forward in a way that it wasn't the highest point of the car. What you wanna do is have the radiator as high as possible so that the air will travel, that's stuck in the system, will travel to the top and then bleed out. And in turn, my overflow tank literally just kept getting coolant pushed into it. The top of that overflowed, it went all over the floor. But for the most part, it's holding coolant, which is good. Double checking there's no drips. At least it's holding fluids, and then we'll probably do another rebleed of it later as well, just because it wasn't the highest point. I'll probably do it another time because I'm tired. I'll get home and then we'll bleed the system again. It might heat up a bit. It won't overheat because it's pretty full, but yeah. All right, well, that's the end of the vlog. Honestly, it was a bit of a slog, not my finest work. So if you're trying to learn something in this video, you've probably learned what not to do. But you know, you live and you learn, and it is what it is. But peace out for now. If you like the content, if you like me doing dumb shit and doing it wrong, this is probably the channel for you. But yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.